Hello guys, it's Boston Reads Everything. Today we are going to be reading from our science encyclopedia about inside atoms. Atoms are the main building blocks of matter. A single atom is the smallest particle of a chemical element that still has all the features and properties of that particular element. But atoms are not the tiniest particles of all. They are made of even smaller pieces called subatomic particles. There are three main kinds of subatomic particles. These are protons, neutrons, and electrons. In every atom of every chemical element, each kind of particle is the same, so the electron in an atom of iron are exactly the same as the electrons of an atom of sulfur. The protons in carbon atoms are the same as the protons in aluminum atoms, and the neutrons in an atom of titanium are the same as the neutrons in an atom of oxygen. What makes these chemical elements different is how many subatomic particles they have in each atom. An atom. An atom has a central part called the nucleus. This contains the subatomic particles named protons and neutrons. Each proton has electrical charge, almost like a tiny electrical battery, but not both positive and negative, only positive. Neutrons are the same size as protons, but they have no electrical charge. Electrons are much smaller than protons and neutrons. They are not in the nucleus. They whiz around it in the layers known as shells. Electrons in the outer shells have more energy than those in the inner shells. Each electron also has an electric charge which is negative, opposite to the charge of a proton. Usually an atom has the same number of protons and electrons, so the positive and negatives are equal, which means the whole atom has no electrical charge. Energy in atoms. Subatomic particles in atoms can be split or broken apart from each other. This releases massive amounts of energy in a split second, the atomic bomb. How do we know? Studying the smallest particles inside atoms requires the most massive scientific equipment in the world. These atom smashers, known as accelerators, are housed with immense buildings or underground tunnels many miles long. The accelerator gives huge amounts of energy to atoms and their particles by making them travel incredibly fast. Then the atoms and particles are made to collide or hit each other to study the pieces that result. The smallest particles. There are many subatomic particles beside protons, neutrons, and electrons. They include muons, gluons, gravitons, and dozens of others. And even particles such as protons and neutrons are not the smallest of all. They are made of even tinier pieces. Quarks, there are six kinds of quarks with the odd names of up, down, strange, charmed, bottom, and top. For example, a proton is two up quarks and one down quark. Quarks, along with a group of particles called leptons, which include electrons, are probably the smallest pieces of matter. They are fundamental or elementary particles. Science discovery. During the 18th century, scientists developed their theories about atoms as the smallest particles which lasted forever and could not be split up. But more research in the late 19th century led to the idea that atoms were not the smallest particles. By 1911, Ernest Rutherford had carried out experiments in Manchester, England, which showed that atoms had even smaller particles inside. He suggested there there was a small, heavy nucleus at the center of an atom, which with much smaller, lighter particles called electrons orbiting around it, shown on the right. The electrons could circle at random around the nucleus. In 1913, Niels Bohr improved this idea by suggesting that electrons had to stay at certain distances from the nucleus in layers called shells, shown on the left. This is the idea still accepted today. That's it for today, guys. Goodbye.